Well, it's time for the regular West ISD School Board meeting. Pursuant to Governor Abbott's temporary suspension of the open meetings laws issued on March the 16th of 2020, this regular board meeting of the West ISD Board of Trustees will be conducted by way of video conference and telephone call. The video conference will be audible to the board and public and allow for a two-way communication. The Board of Trustees will not be physically present at one location, but a quorum will be required for the meeting on the video conference or phone. The public may access this virtual meeting by way of the link found on the calendar on the West ISD website at www.westisd.net. A link to the online agenda is also available under the board header on the same website. Any public comments must be submitted between 8 a.m. on Monday, February the 8th and 4 p.m. on Tuesday, February the 9th, 2021 by emailing the comments to publiccomment@westisd.net. All public comments shall be submitted to this email address and will be read to the Board of Trustees for consideration. I now call this meeting to order and verify that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, I'd please ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer, both led by Jason Yannick. And Mr. Truitt, up in the top left square of your screen, has the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here today, Lord, and we give you all the honor, all the praise, all the glory. Lord, we adore you above all. Lord, please know that we are thankful for all the many blessings of our community, all of our administrators, our very talented teachers, our talented students, all the opportunities they are provided through school and all of our beautiful facilities, Lord. And we ask that you teach us to continue to grow in love for you and one another, and Lord, and be with us tonight. Give us the gifts of, strengthen the gifts of wisdom and knowledge and understanding in us so that we may have the courage to make the right decisions for our district. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Jason. All right, board members, that brings us to agenda item number 5, was the audience portion of the agenda. And I understand that we've had no one to email us with any questions. So we'll go on to the next item, which is an action item. It's the consideration and possible action by the board to approve the consent agenda. You have that in your package. You have an ample opportunity to look it over and present questions. If there are no questions, the floor is now open for a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented in our packet. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mike Garrick has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Jason Yannick is second. All those in favor, please show of hands or say aye, or where I can see your hand screens. Okay. I'm looking around. Looks like 7-0. Okay. That brings us to agenda item number 7, which is a report on the administrative and campus reports. And Mr. Truitt, I believe you're going to present that for us.
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to welcome, we've got, 38 in the house for tonight's board meeting. I know we've got students from Mrs. Snook's government dual credit class, so glad to see all the students online tonight. And then I know we have a number of staff members that are looking for flex time, specifically for Monday's holiday for President's Day. So we're glad you're here as well. And we hope all of you have a great time with us tonight, maybe learn a little bit about the work of the district. This is the portion of the board meeting agenda to the staff and students where we go over department and campus reports. And so we have a number of things we're going to delve into and discuss. Starting off with our West ISD Return to Learn and Play updates. And so I'm going to share my screen here. And give me 1 minute to get that set. Just 1 second, guys. Here it comes. All right, I think everybody can see my slides now. It's our traditional template we use each month. This is a standing agenda item where we just share how we're doing COVID-19 wise, specifically our data and any changes or updates to our plans. Just want you first to hear our latest report from Nurse Bbva. So for Tuesday, February 9th, before we received even better data today, we were sitting at 5 positive cases at West Elementary and 13 on quarantine. At the middle school, 2 positives, 5 quarantine. The high school, 1 positive, 6 quarantines. And then you can see the totals there of 8 and 25 with 2 cases and 1 quarantine for staff members. I do know this has already decreased again today to 7 and 22. We did have a rise in our numbers recently following some, what we believe, some weekend activities that we heard about, especially when you looked at the names and families of who were involved in those events. We had our most number over the last 2 weeks at the elementary that we've had all year. And so kind of a misnomer at this point that our younger kids aren't getting positive cases and test results, because we're seeing it firsthand over the last couple weeks. We did have to quarantine our first class of the year with a kindergarten class at the elementary school. We decided, after having the potential for some cases there, which ended up being 3 students and the teacher, we feel we made the right call and were able to stave off possibly further spreading of COVID there. All those students are just about back. And the numbers at the elementary then have decreased this week with the return of those students. I decided also to share with you where our numbers have been. I think this is helpful data that you can see when I started creating the data tables and sharing out at the board meetings. You can see where we've been on this journey. Also, I meant to add, based on our latest information at the elementary school, Mrs. Cosda and I met, and I had shared with you guys in a text that we decided to go ahead and finish the year strong. We knew our students in the lower grades at the elementary had been wearing masks for other reasons and at other events and different things in our community, and had gotten used to the masks and had their own favorite masks. And just to ensure they're in face-to-face instruction and at school, we decided to extend the face mask guideline to all students for the remainder of the school year. And to date, it's going well. We have some students we're working with still and reminding, but overall, it's going well. And we feel we made the right call there to finish the year on a good note. So back to this slide, you can see we talked a lot about the uptick after Halloween there in November, when we went through some big numbers there for isolation and quarantine. And then you can see how it slowly declined, and our worry about Christmas and returning never materialized. You can see we've been steady with that 5 to 11 range in isolation, and we've been in the 20s, except for the class we just sent home at the beginning of February when we got to 59. And you can see overall our community and our staff and students have been doing an outstanding job of ensuring that we're at school, we're having face-to-face instruction, we're having athletic events. I'm proud to say we didn't have a single athletic event canceled. We might have had some players not, in quarantine or isolation where they couldn't play, but I don't know of many school districts that can say that they have made it as far as we have the date without having to cancel an event. And I also want to add, I don't want to steal Coach Woodard's thunder, but with the recent news for our 2 basketball teams, also even during these challenging times, every single one of our sports to date has made the playoffs in a tough year to even have practice and games. And once again, the Trojans and Lady Trojans stepped up and are excelling. And so you can see where we are again at 8:25 here. And the next slide, this has a couple of quick updates. We've been asking our staff and principals again about PPE needs. They call them it's wipes, but they're plastic jugs of wipes instead of the little containers. And those are popular, and folks are asking for those. So making sure we have wipes, and then the disposable masks over the cloth masks. Of course, we get the cloth ones free from the state, and they delivered them to us, and we're still going through those, but we're finding the disposable ones are the way to go. And we'll make sure we have those for the remainder of the school year in our classrooms and on the buses in particular. This challenge with the cloth masks is the kids will wear them and then dispose of them, and that's not the intent. You know, the cloth ones are supposed to last for a longer period of time, even be washed and brought back, for the next day or the week or weeks. And we find them all over our facilities and in the trash. And so, of course, that's the role of a disposable mask. And so we're going to make sure we have those for our students and staff and guests to wear. We did put out an online survey I wanted to let you know about, the check on vaccination needs of our staff, particularly for the phases 1A and 1B, and who on our staff would be interested if we contracted with a company or a hospital to provide the vaccinations, so they wouldn't have to get on a waiting list, drive somewhere, maybe even drive somewhere of a great distance and not just Waco in order to get it if they wanted it. And to date, we've had 5 yeses that are in the 1A and 1B. And so Nurse Tabola is looking into our options to offer it in our nursing clinics on our campuses. And Mrs. Cora even said that Waco ISD is willing to let these 5 join their program if we can't figure out a solution here in West. And so we've got a couple things we're working on there. The big question I get asked, Board, is about everyone else. And I know the SBOE put forth a letter to the legislature asking for teachers to be included in phase 2A. Otherwise, everything I've received has been late spring or early summer. And so we're just waiting to hear when we'll have that option. And when we do, we want to provide that one in West as well. On the return to play, we updated our guidelines for the different sports here in the spring. I mentioned this last month. We've now had some baseball and softball events, of course, powerlifting as well. And so we're seeing how the guidelines work and what tweaks need to be made. If you're wanting to come to a baseball softball game, the best advice I have is to ask a player if they have tickets, or come up to the ticket booth. And we've asked that if all the tickets aren't being used, for them to be returned to the ticket booth, so anyone could walk up and say, are there available tickets, and they could get into the games. And we've had a lot of our games canceled because of weather this week, and I know the kids are disappointed in that, but we'll get through this and get them back on the fields. Track hasn't happened yet in golf, but those are coming soon, and we have guidelines for those events as well. I always have a slide, and really we're down to just one. What I'm calling our greatest struggle is still those close contact investigations and who needs to go home, staff and student wise, especially when it's at the house, and tracking down siblings and who are they around, and then the friends. At school, it's a little easier with seating charts and teachers knowing who sits where, and on the buses and at lunch as well. Close contact in our buildings is still so much about lunch, and when they have to remove their masks to eat and drink, and those are guaranteed quarantines in that case. But those second and third tier and interaction and how much, and trusting the kids' report of how much they were around the folks that might have symptoms or a positive case is still a struggle. But as you can see from our data, it's showing that our plan's working. We haven't had an uptick since Christmas, really since the November data I showed you. And so we're just going to continue on with what we're doing, and because it's working for us. And again, I can't thank our community students and staff enough. So that's it for COVID updates. Is there anything I can answer or you might have questions about? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move to our next item, is the construction at the new West Elementary School. Had some pictures, and I thought it'd be easier to show some scenes from the site. I'd already sent you the one that had the erosion fencing and things going in, and so these are from today actually. And this is a side of the drive where it hits 2114 and then goes back to the campus. And so I wanted you to see this. You can see more shots of the erosion fencing there in the back. Wanted to show you this one just so you can see what we've got construction equipment wise on site. And also this picture shows you the stakes for the foundation and different pieces. So you can kind of get a feel if you want to drive out there, or I can meet you out there, just kind of see where it's all going to sit on the 30 acres. And then this one I included because the construction fencing is going around the property. So far it's going down the north side along the Watson property, and then it's cutting over, and you can see there by Trojan Field and our track field events in the back, and soon it will go down the west side and south side. So right now it's only up on really two sides of the rectangle. But lots happening out there. They're also doing the pad for the construction trailer was the other thing I noticed. And they're doing a really great job. A lot's happened this week. So a lot to see as we get closer to the groundbreaking. The next task, actually I had that on the slide, is you'll see the construction trailer. It looks a lot like a temporary building. Will go up out there. Road access to get through the ditch and continued dirt work. We have a big meeting tomorrow morning at 9. Even with our 2-hour delay, we're still meeting. It's too important that we don't meet or that we skip this meeting or postpone it because of the people coming. We got Claycomb and Jackson, and then the City of West folks, and then of course our district folks. On the agenda, we're going to start going through some things related to the construction timeline, making sure they know what's happening when, the annexation process of the property, the permit piece, big discussions on utilities, specifically when they leave the south portion of the property and go onto the Matouche Trust land and cuts over and heads down south along 2114 towards the Palladium and Mrs. Matouche's house. We're going to bring up the fire suppression system, the tank that we're having to add because the city is not aware that that was a late need based on, as you know, the water pressure and things in town, and making sure that the fire suppression system works properly. And then they also aren't aware of the drive connecting 2114 to the campus to Jerry Moshik. And so we want to explain where we're envisioning that. After our last meeting, you guys made a change to its direction of the drive on Jerry Moshik. And so we want to explain that and let them see that on the drawings. And stress it's our drive and not a city road, and how it will be used throughout the school day at different times and events as well. And then anything else they want to talk about. But the main thing is this construction timeline, the utilities, and the annex and the permit. So that's tomorrow at 9. And if we can't get through everything, then we'll schedule another meeting. The groundbreaking ceremony is still set for Friday the 19th. You know, when we were looking at the weather, it's funny how that quickly it changes. It's still showing in the 50s and sunny, but also the little snowflake for snow has moved from Thursday to Saturday to Sunday to Monday to Tuesday. So it just keeps moving back. So we'll be flexible if we need to do something. This is the beauty of having a ceremony with minimal folks on site and everything being virtual through YouTube live stream, that if we need to push it back, we can, and we can let the folks who received the invitation who'd be on site know. I've asked Mrs. Cosda to jump in here, and so I want to make sure she knows she's going to have to unmute in a second. Parking for that day, board, because obviously you all have a big role in the ceremony. We're going to ask the students to park up front at the high school, so that back southeast parking lot, that's the students by the practice gym and by the south end of Trojan Field will be available for parking as we'll go through the gate of that south ticket booth, and the barbed wire fencing and the fencing on that end is down, and we'll make sure that the construction fencing has an opening. It'll be right there on the south west corner of the 30 acres where there's still grass, and we'll be walking in dirt and mud and things. And so we'll have set up there, obviously with the camera for the live stream and the areas for the shoveling of the dirt and a lot of different pieces there for the ceremony. I'm excited the kids will all be able to get on at 1:30 in their classrooms and watch. Our goal is to keep the ceremony right at about 30 minutes so that the kids can watch it and still have time to finish the day and get to dismissal with their process there on the campus. We have a number of speakers I'm excited about, different angles there that Ms. Costa will share here in a moment. We'll talk about dress and text if we want to do special shirts or just wear our Sunday best. So we'll get through that board here through a discussion about how we want to handle that. A lot of pictures, and so we need to think about it, and we may be wearing jackets and gloves for all we know. So we'll see as it gets closer. Ms. Costa, do you mind sharing about the ceremony?
Sure. Mr. Truitt and I brainstormed, and we wanted to make sure that we included all stakeholders. So we wanted to make sure we had some students there, teachers, parents, and that everybody, every voice had a chance to be heard. And so everyone that I've talked to, we talked about wearing red and black and dressing up because we want to support, you know, the Trojan colors. So we're going to do that. We have really thought through who's going to have a part in the program. So we asked the Kohler family if they could come and lead the pledges for us. As you know, Joey Kohler was in the military, and Rose Kohler helped out a lot with the first round of the bond. And so they're going to come and do the pledges for us. We have the Meckel family. They're going to lead the prayer. And Miss Meckel, I believe, was also very heavily involved with the first go round of the bond. I wasn't here at that time, but the second go around, she helped us as well and spoke at a community forum, was of course at all the meetings, and helped us with the parade float and was heavily involved. So they're going to lead the prayer. We have a group of teachers that are going to get up. They're going to write one speech together and just take turns speaking. We chose Miss Grahosky from pre-K. She also was involved with the bond and spoke at one of the community forums. And she was a student at West Elementary School, graduated from West, and is a veteran teacher. We have Miss Meckel is going to be one of the representatives because she was already there with the prayer. And we have Miss Ranzinger in 4th grade and Miss Garrick, Tara Garrick in 5th grade. So they're going to speak. I'm going to have a small speech. That's what I keep telling Mr. Truitt, right? We're keeping him short. Mr. Truitt's going to speak. And then we have the Willis. Is just Holly speaking, or is it the entire Willis family coming in? That's what I'm not sure about.
We still owe her a phone call, so you're getting us in trouble, Mrs. Costa.
Oh, I'm breaking the news. Oh, Miss Willis is going to speak with the parent perspective, and I called all the other ones, Mr. Truitt. I thought you were calling her.
He's slacking.
We've been playing. I can't even say we've been playing phone tag. We've been texting saying, "Are you available?"
And I think our vision is that everybody is going to speak from their perspective of how this campus is going to affect. For example, the teachers are going to be able to say how it will affect their teaching, and I'll be able to speak on how I think it will affect our campus as a whole to have a building that's more conducive to learning. And then hopefully Ms. Willis will be able to speak about how it will affect her children to be able to be in this great new building. We also will have Mr. Sparks speak, and I believe you said Mr. Mushka, he's going to have a proclamation, and then we're going to shovel the dirt and take some good pictures.
I know y'all are all thinking that sounds way more than 30 minutes, especially since you said I was speaking. I could do the whole 30. We were thinking 2 to 3 minutes each. Larry, your part is the end, the closing, and final thoughts. I'm the intro, so we're bookending the event, and obviously board, lots of pictures and shoveling of dirt, and I'm just thrilled that you guys can all be there. Thank you, Mrs. Cosda. You nailed it. I was trying to think if you left anything off, but we think we have a good representation there of students, staff, administrators. Obviously, we need to thank Clay Combe and Jackson and all the folks that helped us get to this point, and Tommy being there from the city. We did ask Judge Perea, the longtime voice of the Trojans, to be our MC to kind of introduce and keep the program moving. I think you'll all agree he'll be a great addition with his silky smooth voice. So we've got all angles there, and it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful day. Now let's just hope we do it on the 19th and the weather permits. So we'll see. All right. Questions about the West Elementary construction, where they are as of today, since those pictures were just from today, or the groundbreaking that Carrie and I can answer. All right, fabulous event, or fabulous times. It'll be a fabulous event. Dr. Sparks and Mrs. Willis will get with you again on specifics. Holly's like, sure. All right, let me quit sharing, and we're going to head to our next presentation, which Mrs. Adams is going to kick off. We've traditionally done our data piece on how we're progressing on our Race to an A plan, our ESF work, and we have some mid-year iReady data that we'd like to share with you. And I'm going to let Amanda take over, and she's going to pull up her documents. And Mr. Clander is going to share middle school, and Mrs. Kaza is going to share elementary. And I think you'll be as excited as I was when we reviewed this earlier this week. And so take it away, Mrs. Adams.
Good evening, board and audience. As Mr. Fritz said, we're going to look at what we're going to call our mid-year diagnostic check. So this year we moved from iStation to iReady. So the data that Mr. Clander, Ms. Kaza, and I are going to share tonight with you are the results from the mid-year diagnostic compared to the beginning of year diagnostic. And we tried to make it look as similar to what you guys are used to seeing over the last few years. So the colors are the same for you guys. So green is tier 1, yellow is tier 2, and red is tier 3. So with no further ado, I will show you the overall for all campuses. So this is grades K through 8. And the way you look at this is the triangle on the left is our most recent diagnostic. If you look at the numbers in the middle, you see that right in January when we took this diagnostic, 43% of our students were on grade level in green. But I want you to notice that to the right of that number, it says from 24%. So when we started in September of 2020, after so many months out of direct instruction, live, face-to-face, we had 24% of our kids test on grade level in this diagnostic program. But in January, in grades K through 8 reading, we are now at 43%. So we're making huge growth. You can also see that our red tier 3, which is more than one grade level behind, has shrunk. And many of those students have moved up into the yellow, which is one grade level behind. So this is great news. The far right shows you the placement by domains. For example, the second one, or the first one on there is PA, that stands for Phonetic Awareness. And what I'd like you to notice is that all of these are dealing with reading. So it gives us a really great view of where to target. Obviously, we need to look at overall some literary elements down there with LIT. So that's how we look at this. I'm going to let Ms. Kaza speak about reading in grades K through 5, and then Mr. Clander will speak about his campus middle school, and then we'll come back and talk about math.
Hey, Amanda.
Yes.
Is there any way to make that bigger? So I see Holly leaning in too. It's like I'm not the only one that's blind apparently. So
Did you guys get a copy of this in your email?
probably.
I will try to make it bigger, but you should probably also have a document that you can look at as well. Let me see what I can do. Ooh, that's way bigger. How's that? Did it?
That's awesome.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's see if I can get it to go to Ms. Cosda's slide now. Yes, this is WES. Okay, Ms. Cosdo, take it away.
Sorry about that. As you can see, we're really excited about our growth as well. We had 22% on tier 1 at the beginning of the year, and we now have 47% on tier 1. So we're really moving the kids along. The red part of the triangle has gotten smaller as well. We went over this with each grade level today, and we broke it down by grade level. And we even calculated out with each team the percentage gain that each grade level made, so that they could look and see if they were hanging in there with all the other teams, or to talk vertically with the other teams and see what they're doing, if they were growing more or less than them. We did notice one thing with a few grade levels in particular is that they were administering the test differently within their classrooms. So we noticed that the classes where the teacher borrowed Chromebooks, shut the room down, had everybody testing at one time, and was at monitoring almost like you would for a STAR test, the kids performed a little bit higher than the ones that did it where they had half of it take it at one time and then another half at another time, or take it during stations. So we're going to tighten that up even more for the end of year assessment, and we think that our scores are going to go up even higher. It showed me we had a little bit of a variable in score based on that, but we were happy with our growth. We also notice where it says placement by domain, our students have moved up and are doing really well. Like Miss Adams said, with the phonological awareness, phonics, and then the high frequency words. Where we drop off is vocabulary, literature, and informational text, which to us means they're just not reading enough. Like the more you read at home and at school, the better your vocabulary is, the better your comprehension is. We did also talk about the fact that in the spring is when you have a lot more nonfiction text. And so we do think that informational text portion will go up quite a bit in the spring naturally, but we're just continuing to push. And I can answer any questions.
Carrie, remind me what the end of your goal is, or what that should look like.
The goal in life really is for the green to be 80, and then the yellow to be 15, and the red to be 5. And it really is attainable, and I've seen it, and it's achievable, and it's a neat thing. Once you get there, it's easy to stay there. It's just getting there that's the hard part, and we've made huge gains. We also talked about, Miss Adams talked to, is his name Trayton? I always say the name wrong, to Trayton, and he was telling her kind of essentially we might not see gains this huge the next time, because we really think that the beginning of the year, the scores were extremely low. They had come off of 6 feels like it, 6 months of no school, and it was their first time to ever see iReady. So we feel like the beginning of year scores were lower than what we'll ever see again. We'll just say that.
If we don't hit the 80%, what's the implications of that?
Really, that they're just not where they need to be, honestly. If they're at 80, 15, and 5, then we know that we have really good tier 1 like core instruction, because the variable truly is the kid. Right now, whenever it's going back and forth all over the place, that tells us that it's not just the students that are the variable. It's getting our instruction tighter and making sure that we're consistent across the board. I hope I said that correctly, Amanda. I don't want to. Okay.
Great questions too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this looks really good. I mean, we're making gains clearly. I was in a workshop just this past week, and they made a point of thinking about our shutdown time and our remote learners still, but more specifically about our shutdown time, that it's the equivalent of 4 summers. And so we're looking at 4 summer slides that we're trying to make up, because we always have what we call the summer slide. And so the fact that we're gaining on it already is pretty impressive.
I agree. I mean, it was good for all of us to see. It kind of affirmed that we're doing the right thing and we're headed in the right direction.
And
So
when's the next assessment?
The next, we do this exact assessment 3 times a year. So you'll see this one again in June. We'll take the test in May, and then I'll have those results for you again.
That'll be the last one.
Yes. Now, we use this program all year, but we just give the diagnostic piece 3 times a year to give the students time to gain that ground by using the program and working with their teachers. So, yeah.
And because it was new to us, I've got to tell you, we didn't really trust it at first. You know, when anything's new, you're like, I hope this is accurate. And several veteran teachers have even talked about that it's really dead on. There aren't any kids that were looking at it and were saying, this is not accurate data. There were a couple that we knew something was wrong. Like we feel like they either just were click happy the day of the test or something was off, and we had them retake it. And it really is true to what we're seeing on unit assessments, interim assessments, every other test they're taking. So it's pretty accurate.
So you feel like we got a pretty good plan in place to get up pretty close to where we need to be?
Yes, it's just time. It's just getting there.
I get it.
But I think we're heading there, so that's good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll come back to you in just a minute for math, Mrs. Cosdad. Mr. Clander, if you want to go over middle school reading.
You know, so much what I'm going to say is really exactly what Ms. Cosdad just talked about. As you see the chart on the far right here, the things that we are still struggling with are those last 3 areas. And these are traditional because it's later in the year we're covering these type of things. You know, we've made some gains, but we never make enough gains. We always want more and more. And just as Ms. Cosdad also mentioned, you know, this was the first time using this program. I think our kids are getting a better grasp of it. Our teaching is getting better using this type of program as well. So we have some makeup ground to make because you can see from where we started the year out, we haven't made quite the gains they've made at the elementary school, but the same thing is every gain we make is a gain. So as we continue moving through this, you know, through our data meetings that we're having, through the assessments the kids are going through, you know, the teachers are really pushing the kids hard, and we're starting to see some of that effects of that. The kids are starting to respond through that. And those that were having some struggles, we've implemented some tutorial periods before school and after school and things like that. So we're getting that extra time from the kids and from the families who are willing to make sure their kids are getting everything they need to get. So like I said, you can look at the charts, you can see that, you know, we're making the gains, and we want to keep making those strides because that's the important part for us all.
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and move to math. Again, this is the K through 8, and I'll zoom in here in just a second, but I wanted to point out that with iReady, we are getting a nationally normed test, and one of our issues with iStation was math, and we're excited that with the iReady, as Ms. Costa mentioned, our teachers of math are very much saying this is accurate, and they're getting the support in those 4 areas that you see on the right, for example, algebra and geometry measurement. And so that's been a huge help for us and our teachers and kids. So let me just kind of zoom in a bit so you can see the numbers. Overall in K through 8, we've seen a market growth, obviously, in our green from 16% to 45%. And then what we're thrilled about as well is seeing so many of our students assess out of tier 3 and move up into yellow area. So they're making progress, and I guess that's kind of the theme of this presentation is that we are striving to get to that 80-15-5, but we are happy to see that some of our kids, I mean all of our kids basically are moving in the right direction in such a hard time when we've missed so much direct instruction last year. So I'll let Ms. Costa take it away with some specific elementary data. And if you have any questions, we can also answer those as well about math.
As you can see, we've had a lot of growth in math as well. Our growth in math is actually larger than the growth we've seen in reading, which there are a few variables. First, we have the addition of a couple of new staff members that have a heavy math background, and they've helped us immensely in a few areas, and even led a training for us, and I hope to have her lead more. And both of those teachers, Mr. Clander actually helped me hire. So shout out to Mr. Clander, but he can't ever have them. Then, yep, no, you can't have him, right, Mr. Clander? He keeps joking, but so that has been great for us. But we also know that it's easier sometimes to make gains in math, because reading, you've got to go all the way back to whatever skill they missed in kindergarten or first grade and try to fill it, where some of these math skills are a little bit easier to teach or gain. Not all of them, but some of them are. What we noticed on, of course, every tier we improved. The red is cut in half for us, or less than half, or more than half. And then our green tier 1 went from 14 to 52%, which was amazing. But over on the right side, what we loved and what we shared as a team today is that they're all pretty even, and that's good to us. It means there isn't one area where we're just not teaching it well. Whenever they're all consistent with one another, that means that we're growing at the same rate, and that we're really doing what we're teaching the kids, and they're learning what they can, and they're getting it all at one time. We also noticed, oddly, that our measurement and geometry are units that are taught this semester, and they were still hanging in there. So even though there's some things in those two areas that we haven't taught yet, they were still making gains, which is good. Do y'all have questions about math?
My question is really about both. Kids that are in the red and are staying in the red, or yellow staying in the yellow, are they making gains within those? And I'm thinking of my population of special ed that we want moving. They just may not be moving quite as fast. So are they making gains within those sections?
Some are and some aren't. I mean, we have some that have moved from red to yellow. We even have had some from yellow to green. We even had a few on the interim this week that we noticed moved from like does not meet last year, that are all the way up to approaches, meets. One was even masters. So they are, a lot are growing. I think we're finally, in the next year or two, we're going to be able to clearly define the ones that aren't moving, that we know there's something wrong, there's something else going on, or we need to seek testing, or we need to get either different types of intervention in place, or we need to seek testing, honestly. But I think prior to this year, last year, a lot of times we weren't sure. We weren't sure if there were just cracks in what they had learned in the past, or if they were struggling to learn. So the tighter we get with all of that as a campus, the smaller that red will be. And if they are red, then we'll know. We'll know to assess.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Clander.
All right, and again, just kind of reiterating the same thing Ms. Cosda did, you can see that we're making some growth there. Some of those things that really were positive for us is seeing the number of tier 3 kids that came into the next tier 2. So we're making some gains with those folks, and that kind of addresses, I think, some of those folks, Ms. Crawshaw, you might have been mentioning, moving those folks through that process, because it does take a little bit more effort as we get into these higher grade levels, that there's a lot more math skills that they have to have a good foundation in. So as we move through this, sometimes our growth is a little smaller, but we do know that we have to continue working on this. As you can see, that tier 2 is staying relatively steady, but our tier 1 has increased a good amount there. So those are some really, really good positives for us. Kids are working hard. I think our block classes with those maths are really going to pay some dividends for us, because they're able to really dive into these different areas within these math components and make those strides that we need to see. So as we look a little further over to the right on this slide, you can see that we do have some areas that we're working on. For some reason, the algebraic areas are always difficult for a lot of kids. It's that abstract aspects of it that are hard for kids to really grasp onto. And so those are some things that we're continuing to work with. But overall, I'm not going to say we're satisfied, but we're pleased at the growth thus far. We're still working those interventions with those kids as we work through this. Now we have, just like we did with reading, we have kids that come before school in that 7:15 to 8 o'clock period. We have kids that stay after school. So we're keeping those groups in 8 to 10 students for our teachers to really make some impact with that, to get some individualized additional work with them. So the kids are working hard, the teachers are working hard, and we're going to keep pushing these things along because we know in the long run it's going to pay big dividends for us all.
I applaud everybody again, just thinking about what we went through. It's been almost a year, and that we have got measurable, significant gains. Even with all that, you guys, everybody, all the teachers need to be applauded. Seriously.
Yeah, no doubt. They've really done well. And I'm going to say that our families in the community have done a great job of getting kids there early in the mornings and kids in the afternoons, things like that. That makes a big impact because we're able to keep those things moving well. So I'd like to thank Ms. Proctor with this. Her and Mr. Biles have done a great job of organizing these groups to help our middle school kids really working that down. So
I'd also like to add in closing, and if you have any further comments or questions, that this data obviously was an overview, but we are able to drill down to the student-specific, class-specific level, and our teachers have been working really hard. Mr. Klander and Ms. Costa are having each of those teachers with their other admin team members make action plans and talk about ways to continue to move our kids up and meet each student in this program is given an annual growth goal. And so I wanted to point out that though we presented a broad view, they've been diving really deep and looking to see what we can do for each student individually. So I appreciate everyone on the campus's hard work. It is a lot to look at data and make a plan for each student, but they are soldiering on and getting that done for the best of our kids. So is there anything else we can answer for you or any questions? We really appreciate the opportunity to show you and show you kind of the progress and where we are.
I have another question, Amanda.
Yes.
So have we ever measured like this before?
We have. We used iStation. We just feel like this program measures a similar set of data. So where the student is at a moment in time, unlike the interim, which is really our predictor of STAR success, this tells us kind of educationally where a student sits at that moment as far as grade level. So we've used one, however, we feel like this one has a much broader data set to pull from and compare to. And so we get more pointed information on the students, and then we're able to create more accurate goals and action plans for the pieces that the students are making in order to meet their next goal. So we're able to drill down further than we were before. And we'll continue to vet the program, but so far we've only had positive feedback that I know of as we talk to the teachers and staff members.
So is our progress similar to previous years, or is it better?
I don't
know. Go ahead, Amanda.
It's hard to compare that.
Okay.
It just is, just because it's reported differently in those systems. And so I would want to take a deeper look. I don't want to guess at that for you, Mr. Yannick, but I would say we definitely noticed that we started in a lower place and we're just growing from there. I think that Mr. Klander and Ms. Cobbs would agree with that, just because of the gap.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how it would be comparable, being out of school since last March, not having STAR, having kids in and out of school this year, remote instruction at the beginning of the year. I would say Jason, I know you weren't on the board when we went through the school improvement piece following the IR label at the elementary, but the board members that will remember that all year long with the iStation piece, we had a higher predicted score than we ended up with. And remember, you all asked why. And it was a surprise to us because we were chugging along and thought we were hitting in the 80s. And that's why the iReady piece, and I think the teachers would agree, definitely the principals, that so far we feel this is more in tune to really where the kids are, and we're going to have a better predictor. I want Amanda, though, to mention, you guys, we have more than just iReady going on. We had a long discussion about the difference between this and interim STAR, and how she's going to use the work that we did during the IR phase that we learned from the folks at Region 12 about how to do our what if letter grade. And so that's coming up here shortly. So I want to make sure you understand there's different pieces to this, and they do different things as far as our data digs go. So Amanda, do you mind, you and I had just talked about this, so it was fresh in my mind. Do you mind sharing so Jason can hear in particular about the other piece that we've got that we'll share?
So I briefly touched on what we look at iReady for, and it's, like I mentioned, it's really talking about compared to all other kids in the nation and norming that grade level, where do they sit and are they growing? Interim, very differently, as I've mentioned to you guys many times, interim STAR is based on data only from the state of Texas, only to deal with their assessment and where the state says the student should be. So though we have crossovers between that we can get close with to show how they're doing on iReady versus interim, they're very different forms of data. And so when we talk to teachers and families, we try to really explain that, because sometimes they don't exactly match up. We're looking at different things. But when we come back to the board meeting in March, we will have information for you based on the interims that we're giving this week and last week. And we will give you a predicted score for you based on those to the best of our ability with what we're seeing now. And that's a whole different data set. So if you wanted to think about this one as more of, are our kids learning at the pace that we think they need to learn at to be successful in their grade level, that's iReady. Interim is, are they on track to make the show that what they know, we'll say, on that STAR interim and make that score that we know they're capable of. And so two different sets of data. And sometimes that's very overwhelming and confusing. And so we talk about that a lot and how to look at it. So March is the month that we were going to report on the House Bill 3, Early Childhood Reading and Math. And so that all lines up, because that interim data is what gives us that ability to do that for you. So we just try to explain that often and talk it through and take questions from anyone, parents, students, and teachers, because we do have so many data sets. We didn't even talk about grades and all the other things that we pull from SAT, ACT, but these two main ones show us a lot for our kids and make us know if we're going in the right direction.
Well, they're the progress monitoring pieces, and when we're looking for growth, that's why these data points and why we want to share this as often as possible, and why we're doing it on a monthly basis during this period. And as you guys know, we've adjusted the ESF timeline. We just did the House Bill 3 work. You know, there's a lot of things that we've been working on trying to get all this aligned back with the school stoppage time due to COVID, because we've had to revamp a lot of things. I emailed y'all while Ms. Adams was talking the grade level diagnostic results for this iReady. I think this goes a lot along with what Jason was asking earlier about how we're doing as a system at each grade level. And you can see the reading and math scores broken down by grade level instead of just the overall campus and then district charts. So I sent that to you, and that can help with when Ms. Cosda was sharing about being system proof and having the frameworks in place where all kids succeed, and it's not a pocket based on a grade level team or a teacher, that everyone's on the same page and doing the things that the principals described tonight to ensure success and growth for all kids. And so there's another data piece there that I sent you.
So when will we get our next update as far as progress, grades, what we can expect as a result potentially for the STAR this year?
That was March and June, wasn't it?
Yes.
One in March, one in June.
We'll have one in
One in
March.
March, one in June.
So March will be interim predictor.
Right. So that will actually give us grades rather than the percentages and things.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
and that's going to be based on interim, but then the June one will be the real deal. You know, what we're doing, how we did on the STAR, as much as data as we can get.
And as a reminder, I know you guys remember this, we won't get a letter grade from the state, so anything we do will be self-calculation. And fortunately, we've gotten pretty good at it, especially Mrs. Adams, our team. So we think we'll be really close like we were last time when we did the predictors.
That's what I was trying to ask a while ago, Mr. Stewart, about implications. Is there anything from the state that's going to measure us if we don't hit that 80% or whatever the thing is?
Not this year. We'll go ahead, Amanda. Talk about your accountability sheet that you just went over at the DLT.
Yes, so the state, obviously, you guys know, we've talked a lot about this. We're not going to get the, yes, Mr. Tritt's holding up our Lead Forward Accountability 2.0 sheet. We're not going to get a letter grade, but we're getting everything else. So they're still going to measure, send us, tell us how we did, give us all our numbers. The only thing they're not going to do is give us a letter. And so we'll be able to take all that data they send us and give you a letter. So it won't be official. We'll be officially not rated due to COVID, but we'll know.
But from all measurements we have, we're looking pretty good right now. Basically,
Correct.
So will that be presented at the April board meeting and then at the June or July?
So interim predictor in March.
But at the March board meeting, or will it not?
Yes,
Okay, good. All right.
Now, June is our hope. It could be July, depending on when.
No. Okay.
It's probably going to be July because of where that board meeting falls. So just
Well, and I know the March meeting is early too, so I was just curious about that.
We're wrapping.
well, the March date is us, so that's just a matter of Amanda and her team getting it ready for March 3rd. But the June one, we're waiting on the state, so big difference there. Yeah.
Early meeting, I think you just said. Yeah, it may be more July.
And we may have it. The June meeting is the 9th. Usually we get it well, actually, I think we usually get it that third week in June. So we may miss the June meeting, but Holly, this is important enough where if we want to schedule a special called meeting just to go over our data and going through it in detail, it may be great, a good idea to have a special meeting the minute we get it. So instead of waiting till the July one, so planning and things have to take place. We don't want to wait. And so I'm all for doing an extra meeting there, just to make sure we get it to you and tell you how we're going to respond best moving forward into the 21-22 school year.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get information as soon as we usually do. One, because they're not giving out grades. Two, because of COVID and people being out that handle all that kind of stuff.
Well, also we're dealing still with the legislative session that's in flux because just this week letters were going about how to opt out of STAR and situations for kids to opt out if due to COVID and remote instruction. And we've had families ask about that. And so it's going to be a very challenging year, even looking at the STAR piece that Amanda's describing. And I can't stress enough, kind of back to what Mr. Yannick was asking. This year's been hard, and I know you guys get it because you've been so supportive and understanding. Our teachers are working their tails off, keeping up with the remote and in-person instruction. And they're going through a lot, and our kids are going through a lot at home, coming in and out and on quarantine and on isolation. And it's just it's challenging to have these conversations, because at the same time we want to talk about moving forward and growth measure and doing well on STAR and getting the 71s at the middle school and high school and the 89 at the high school, moving in the right direction. But we're in a pandemic, and it's taking a toll on our folks. And so we're doing our best to balance the push, but also the nurture, and how can we help, and what do you need? And every week there's a chance of a breaking point. We have to decide what we're going to leverage and what we're taking away and what we're adding on. And we're navigating uncharted territory. I can't honestly say I have a COVID plan that's perfect, and we're doing our best based on feedback from the staff and families, and checking on them as much as we can. So
hearing Amanda and Chuck and Carrie's enthusiasm about the growth is very encouraging too. It's a very positive thing. So.
It is. If Jason, the best thing to remember is on those triangles, the green went up and didn't maintain, wasn't the same from the beginning of the year, didn't go backwards, of course. The progress we've made there is something to be excited about and celebrate. Yep. And let's finish strong here in the spring and just keep moving forward the best we can. And again, it's all about growth, and that's what we're pushing right now. Let's keep heading in that direction. So I appreciate you saying that.
Awesome. Go Trojans.
Always. All right. Great presentation. Thank you to Mr. Klander, Mrs. Cosda, and Mrs. Adams. And we don't want to forget Mrs. Francis and Carrie, or sorry, Ms. Deplison. And I'm doing a lot of first names tonight. I'm sorry. And how hard they're working to get the data to the principals for these PLTs that Mrs. Adams was mentioning. So it's a true team effort there. And we'll have the March information to you, and we'll even make it in the packet so you can study it. And we'll make sure the slides are large enough for even my old eyes to see. And so we'll make sure you've got all that information to review and have the right size fonts and things. Next, moving on to D, I asked the legendary David Woodard just to share about National Athletic Signing Day. It's always an exciting time in West to celebrate kids and accomplishments, and we had some banner signings that were really fun to be a part of. So, and also, David, anything you want to share about our athletic program? And I know we have some big games this week in particular, so share about the awesome things happening in Trojan Land.
Can you hear me, Mr. Truitt?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. We have some big things this week. Tomorrow night, our girls play a bi-district basketball playoff game in Ennis against Mildred. It starts at 6 o'clock. There will be plenty of tickets available at the gate. They're $5 for adults and $3 for students. We're allowed over 400 fans in, so should be plenty of tickets available for anybody that wants to come. So it'd be great to see a big group of Lady Trojan supporters out there for that tomorrow night. Friday night, the boys play the last home game, district home game here, so it'll be senior night. JV games start at 5 and 6:15, and then the varsity games start around 7:30. So get to honor a large group of seniors this year, and that basketball team clinched second place last night in the district, and so they'll be starting the playoffs next week. So really excited about the way our basketball season's gone, and looking forward to both of those teams getting into the playoffs and getting started. On to what Mr. Tritt talked about. We had signing day last week. We had 2 students sign letters of intent to further their education and athletic careers. And so Hannah Levinka signed with Southwestern College out of Winfield, Kansas, to play softball. It's an NAIA school there. And then Trey Yannick signed a football letter of intent to play at West Texas A&M in Canyon. And so really proud of both of those kids and their accomplishments, and excited for them and their families as they move forward to continue their athletic career and see how things take them from there. Spring schedules are all on the website. They'll just like this week with Mother Nature taking over, they're subject to change. And so please check those. I'll try to get updates to Mr. Truitt where he can get them out to everybody as well through the messengers and things, because we will have changes inevitably through the spring going through all this. And just to add a couple of things onto what he said earlier about our teams making the playoffs. So much of that credit goes to our kids and their families and being able to take care of themselves and work really hard to follow protocols and make sure that we're able to play as many games and do the things and have success that we can. And more importantly, our coaching staff. I know we haven't done everything perfectly, but those guys and ladies have worked really, really hard to adhere to the rules and clean things like we've never cleaned things in our lives, and work hard to take care of our kids and our programs and ensure that our kids have the best opportunity to be successful this year. So hats off to our kids and families for following those, and a big kudos to our coaching staff for really working hard to make sure that our kids had the best opportunity to do those things. And so that's all I have. I'm going to try to be quick, get us back on schedule, because I know we're probably behind a little bit right now. So if anybody has any questions.
I hear none, and thank you for your leadership. You definitely are the athletic director of the year. Thank you, Coach Woodard. All right, our last item, there's two more items. We received a report from McLennan Community College, and I've asked Ms. Scott to kind of hit some highlights of the report. It's located in your packets right before the yellow sheets, right before the groundbreaking invitation. It's got our TW at the top and the MCC logo. So take it away, Ms. Scott.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, good deal. Well, like Mr. Truitt said, I received this report from Londa Caraveau at MCC, and I will share or highlight just a few areas from this report, because you look at it and it's like, wow, you kind of have to break it in pieces. So first of all, if you will look toward the left-hand side of the page, toward the bottom, the fall 2020 currently dual credit. Currently, we have 84 juniors and seniors that are taking dual credit classes this school year. And, that's a pretty good size. I know in years past, we may have had a little higher, but I know it seems like there's a lot of kids in there. They're working hard and trying to get that dual credit, the college credit and the high school credit. Right next to that, the fall 2020 previously dual credit, that shows 30 kids. It says former West at MCC. That's our current seniors. They're in their second year of dual credit. They started as juniors, and so they're at 30. Then if you go right above where I started, where it says top 5 majors for the first time in college student from West, you can see there what the top 5 that students are majoring in. And a lot of times the kids, when they're doing the dual credit advising, they will talk to the advisors there at MCC. What is your major? What do you want to do? And so this lists the top 5, the liberal arts and sciences, business, areas of business, nursing, engineering, and then firefighting. So those were the top 5 from our West students. Then if you go to the far right of the page there, kind of in the middle, it says top 10 transfer institutions of West graduates within 5 years. You notice that Tarleton State is the top one with 21 students attending, and then it's just broken down, TSTC, Texas A&M, and so forth. So that was interesting. And then the last piece that caught my eye was at the very top, right under the MCC logo, where it says the first time in college fall 2020 demographics. You will notice on that one, in the slide right next to the right of it, we have a lot more females taking dual credit, it seems like, there than the males. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So I don't know, we need to recruit more males, I guess, but I just thought that was interesting. And actually next week on Thursday, the 18th, we will be Zooming with MCC dual credit reps for the advising with our rising seniors, and then the rising juniors, the sophomores, will have an opportunity to put in for what they want to take in the fall as a junior. So, oh, and also tomorrow night, Miss Lavinka will be going over the course selections for the next school year, and I will also be talking to parents about dual credit. And then on Friday, during the school day, we'll be meeting with grade level classes, going over that information, passing out course selection information, as well as the dual credit for those juniors and seniors to have that opportunity. So any questions or anything I can answer?
Board, I think you'll agree this is a helpful report, and I'd never seen this report. And so when Michelle sent it to us, I was like, put it on the agenda, because it really paints a really specific data-driven picture of our students and our dual credit work, and also as they move on after West and West High School and go to MCC, and where they go even on from there, which all of you know is a popular route for our students. So I thought this was something definitely to share with you guys.
Thank you.
Doing it. Yeah.
Michelle, as you meet with MCC, I'd be curious to know if they see a trend, or is it just us that's more females?
I will definitely check with Londa on that. I'm sure
Michelle,
she has.
is that number? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is that number, that MCC FTIC, is that the overall counts? Because it looks
that
like
stands for first time in college. There's a little glossary if you will look at the bottom right of the sheet. It kind of gives a little explanation of all their little abbreviations there. But
with Jason talking about further to the right with that 772, is that what you're looking at, Jason?
Yes, that would be MCC first time in college, looking at our West numbers. So that's how I read it. I know some of it's a little fuzzy, but that's, you know, I can definitely, I'll ask Londa about the female part, because I thought that was interesting. That caught my eye right away. I was like, And yeah, it's not too high, but.
What I was saying was, like, if you look at all MCC or what have you, it looks like the male female counts are about where we're at.
Oh, true. I see what you're saying. Like middle column. Yes.
Yeah, he's talking about the 772 versus 417. So he's right. That's a trend even at
right. And then even further on the right, it's the 5,000 versus the 2,000. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So all in first time.
Yeah. So it just seems like it's,
it's everywhere.
The standard.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
I like the retention rate area there. I hope y'all noticed that we're in line. So our kids have been prepared and been able to hang, I guess would be the word to use.
These are cool metrics though, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also think the majors, it's interesting what they're picking as we talk about things that we're offering and doing and that are part of our program, especially with the health science and the engineering strands we've added, and to see those in our top 5. And I got to give a shout out to Karen Kohler too, because number 2 is her strand.
Exactly.
Business offerings that we have, and it shows that there's a need for those things at West High School. All right, thank you, Michelle. All right, let's keep rolling. One last presentation, then we'll get to our 2 action items. I'm not going to pull back up the PowerPoint. I'm just going to hit some highlights about our safety and security plan. Ms. Protka wanted me to mention that the next radio order, which y'all know is an important piece of our communications plan for our EOP, will be here at the end of this month. And that will almost double the amount of radios we have across our campuses and district. For Dr. Sparks and Ms. Crawshaw, remember our next committee meeting is Thursday, the 25th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. And so we'll get that information out and we'll give updates on where we are in the audit and all the other pieces of work that we've been doing this year. Wanted to let y'all know that the West ISD Police Chief job posting is up. So here we go. Our journey is beginning. To date, we don't have any applicants, but it hadn't been up long, so don't let that be a fear. There's some folks who will want to go ask to interview or apply, so we can interview them. And we need to get the word out on the different postings that I told you where we could share this with law enforcement folks so they can see that we're ready to roll and start meeting some candidates. At the March board meeting, in addition to Ms. Adams talking about the letter grade, another agenda item will be our guardian staff list that we'll have to discuss in closed session because of the names being shared do not need to be made public. And I've asked Mr. Klander to help me with organizing that training for this summer, particularly in June, and finding sites to get those folks to the training as that next level of safety and security that we've mentioned. The good news is everything we discussed in the fall, I'm going to keep bringing this up, we are totally on track to have in place for the start of school in August. And so all the different pieces in that 5-step plan I presented back in October, where we're supposed to be here in February. And so I'll just keep sharing updates each month so you can hear where we are. And as we progress to having our own Guardian program and police department here in West. Any questions that I can answer about that topic?
And we're paying for the radios out of our pocket, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the Bureau of Land Management somehow is providing radios for school. It may be a grant that you may have to write or apply for. To me, it was very strange when they said the Bureau of Land Management for radios for schools, but something for us to definitely check into so that maybe we don't have to pay for, or maybe we can get extras to have in case something goes down or something like that to fill what our goals are.
And I'll clarify, I assumed you were talking about round 2 of the radios. Remember, round 1 was paid for by the safety grant, but we wanted more because we saw the value once they got here. So we paid for round 2, but we'll definitely look into that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Adams or Mrs. Prutka, I saw you were on here tonight. Wasn't the first grant for $25,000 and we spent it to the penny practically on the radios? All right, I saw Amanda do a thumbs up. So we did get 25, but hey, we will definitely get Joanna looking at that. Any grant like that is definitely something we need to explore.
And I'll look back at my notes to see if I have anything else about how, where that comes from, or grant or application, or what that is.
Okay. Other questions about our safety and security plan? Okay, hearing none, Dr. Sparks, we're ready to move to the 2 action items.
All right. That brings us to agenda item number 8, which is an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve the Texas Association of School Boards, known as TASB, Policy Service Update 116. This TASB policy update includes the following West ISD local policies: CQB local, technology resources / cybersecurity, DCD local, employment practices, at-will employment, FFAC local, wellness and health services, medical treatment, and KGA local, community relations, conduct on school premises. Mr. Truitt will take over from there.
I provided you again they're in the yellow, gold, whatever color you want to call that, portion of your packet where you can see the strike throughs in red and the new language in blue. Last month, we had the first reading where we literally went through every blue language piece and all 4 of the local policies. And I didn't get any questions over the last month about any of the recommendations from TASB for these new policy writings for West ISD. So unless you have questions tonight, I'm seeking your approval for these updates for these 4 locals.
Does anyone have a question before I call for the motion? If not, the floor is open for a motion to approve agenda item number 8 as presented.
So moved.
Lee has made the motion. Is there a second? Kenny seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands or vocal aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed, same sign. There are none. 7-0, Lee, as I counted it. That brings us to agenda item number 9, which is also an action item. Consideration and possible action by the board to approve the resolution extending depository contract for funds with Bbva Usa. And Ms. Mosick is going to take and present that. Joanna, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you.
Well, as you said, we're going to try and extend the contract with Bbva Usa. It's required that our initial contract lasts 2 years, and we started with Bbva 2017. So 2019, DEA gives us the ability to extend 3 times 2-year terms. So we're on our second 2-year term. So 17-19 was the initial. 2019 to 2021 is our first extension, and so this is going to be our second extension. We did not go out for bid on it, obviously, with extending it, but with transition going on and everything's running pretty smoothly with the bank, I kind of wanted to give you all just a few bits of information that some of the new programs that the bank provides to us. We have now positive pay. We do, there's an auto reconciliation feature, which I love. We have a remote deposit machine that scans our checks that are sitting on each one of our secretaries and Kenna's desks. We do, there's actually a phone app that Mr. Truitt and I have just fallen in love with because it's so much easier to use. Facial recognition to sign in is wonderful. And we also handle ACH, getting more into ACH and wire payments and so forth. But there's also a virtual card, credit card, like a ghost card. And it's basically, it creates a one-time use credit card only for that certain amount off of that invoice. And it's emailed to the vendor, and the vendor just runs it through their credit card machine, and that's how they get their money. And it's quick and simple and fast, and there's virtually no fraud with it because it is a one-time use number. So all those different items are something we've leaned on a lot lately. So just wanted to kind of let y'all know what extras are being involved with the contract. So.
All right.
That's it. Y'all have any questions for me about it?
Any questions for Joanna? If not, the floor is open for a motion to approve the resolution extended depository contract for funds with BBVA as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, John Crowder has made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I didn't hear whose voice that was.
Lee.
Lee. Okay, Lee, thank you. All those in favor, please show of hands, say aye. Okay, thank you very much. 7. Anybody opposed? Same sign. There are none. Okay, 7-0. All right, thank you very much, board. It is now 7:52. At this time, we will adjourn into closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551071, 551129, 551074, and 551072. You do have the other Zoom meeting information codes and convene from closed executive session for the possible action relative to items considered during closed executive session. Mr. Truitt, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, first we're going to look at 11A. Tonight I'm seeking your consideration and possible approval to authorize the board president, Dr. Larry Sparks, to sign the engagement letter with Walsh Gallegos regarding the PIN litigation.
We have discussed this. The floor is now open for a motion to address the just agenda item.
So moved.
Who's made the motion? Kenny is second. All those in favor, please show of hands or say aye. 7. All those opposed, same sign. There are none. All right. Thank you.
Next, I'm seeking your approval for 11B, consideration and possible action by the board to approve the personnel report. And specifically, I want to pull out 3 pieces of the personnel report because it has to do with the great things that we're doing in West ISD and our future success. And so, in addition to the personnel report tonight, I'm seeking your approval to name Amanda Adams, Assistant Superintendent, Carlos Scora, Director for Special Programs, and Joanna Mosick, Director for Business and Finance.
Right. Thank you. The floor is now open for a motion to address this agenda item as described.
Move to approve.
So moved. Thank you.
John has moved to
Second.
approve. Holly is second. All those in favor, show of hands or say aye. Thank you. All those opposed, same sign. Looks like it's 7-0, Lee.
It's
All right.
Amanda and Joanna. Well, Joanna was on here. Oh, there she is. You're up. I couldn't find you in the quadrants.
Oh, there you are.
Ladies, I greatly appreciate your support and team first attitude. You guys definitely get putting the kids first. So thank y'all for always going the second mile. You not only deserve, but you've earned these titles. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
All right, 11C, consideration of possible action by the board to approve the superintendent's contract recommendations. First, we will approve C1. Actually, Ms. Crawshaw, point of order, is it written as one action item? Okay, so I'll vote.
We have 1 and 2. Yeah, 1 and 2.
There's not a vote for both separately, do them together on the sheet?
They're just one item.
Okay, all right, I'll name 1 and 2 and then we'll do a vote. For administrator contracts, tonight I'm seeking your approval for the 21-22 school year for Amanda Adams, Carla Sikora, Joanna Mossick, David Woodard, Carrie Cosda, Chuck Clander, Teresa Suka, Michelle Scott, Misty Cook, Leanna Sexton, and Matthew Biles.
I'll make the motion.
Wait, hold on. I was just giving y'all a second to pause. We got to do the second one. And then letter C2, tonight I'm seeking your approval to name Kyle Shoppick, new West High School assistant principal.
The floor is now open for a motion to approve these as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Jason Yannick's made the motion. Second.
Second.
Okay, Lee Crawshaw is seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands or say aye. Very good. So all those opposed, same sign. There are none. 7-0. All right.
Thank you. I can't wait for our community, staff, and students to meet Mr. Shoppick. He's going to be a great addition to our team. So I'll get information out about duties and titles and Kyle's arrival in an email tomorrow. All right, we still have number 12, my closing report and updates. In the calendar reminders that are in your back of your packets, and I'm going to go ahead and hit number A1 with this. As a reminder, the board meeting in March again is the 3rd because the spring break is that next week. And so it's not the 10th, it's the 3rd. And I'll keep reminding you about that. Remember, Monday's a holiday, and with the 3 degrees or whatever it is listed now, I'm grateful because we probably would have had to have canceled school. We got a SHAC meeting coming up though on the 16th. And so for several of you, Dr. Crowder and Ms. Crawshaw, that's a meeting I need you guys to attend at 6:30 p.m. And for some reason, we have a whole group of Texas A&M health students attending our SHAC because this is kind of cool. They just Googled SHAC and they had a requirement to attend the school district SHAC meeting, and ours came up on Google because we have it all posted. So we have a group of college kids coming to our SHAC meeting that night for their course. So we're going to have quite the room, and we'll excuse that they're Aggies. It's okay. We got our Parent Academy coming up on the 22nd on the Social Media Dangers Childhood 2.0 documentary.
Sorry, that was me.
Oh, that's all right.
That was Lorena ISD. They're probably calling me to tell me that school is either canceled or delayed for tomorrow. So apologize.
And I think, was that Ring? Was that U2? Was that the band U2? That's what it sounded like.
I don't know. It's whatever. I don't know.
You can see we got UIL academic meets, a music concert, or really 2 down there. So we got a lot of stuff happening here. I already told you about the safety committee meeting for Dr. Sparks and Ms. Crawshaw on the 25th. B, I wanted to let y'all know that we've been working on a plan to present to you at the March 3rd board meeting. We've researched and believe we have a need in West to look at a virtual academy program for families that are interested in a at-home virtual hybrid instructional program. Purposes to re-engage families who feel virtual and online programs best for their kids, which many of them have experienced this year. And when we talk about lessons learned from COVID, this one would be on my list, top 3 probably. I would love to have a hometown option over all the different online ones that are out there where these kids could still be Trojans and Lady Trojans. I also believe strongly that even in a school district our size and where we're located, that the way education is going in the 21st century, that our families must have choice. In the way it's going online, we can't keep our heads in the sand and say that we don't have families that would want and need this as an option for their instruction. I'm not saying the TEA model. I'm not a fan of what they put out there this year where the kids had to get on every day and have an engagement piece in order to be counted for attendance. We're talking about a self-paced hybrid program, a blended plan of asynchronous and synchronous learning. And the timeline, we want to talk to you about it now because we'd love to have this in place for the 21-22 school year. As a reminder, we lost 92 students since last March, and 42 of them are homeschooling using an online virtual program right now as we speak. We figured out a budget that if we could just get 22 of them back, we could hire 2 teachers that would pay for themselves by those students re-engaging with West ISD. We're currently calling these families to see if their level of interest and what it would take to get them come back. And then we plan to do a survey and a big PR push to say, hey, if we push this out, if we got this organized, of course, fully explaining the program and its framework and all the different pieces to it, would you take part in this? We've been exploring sample virtual campuses. We've been looking at the technology pieces. Obviously, we already have the Chromebooks and hotspots. Only if a family still has an issue with the hotspot would that be a problem. But we've also discussed physical locations like my old office spaces here at admin, if they needed a hard location to come and do the work. We've been talking about curriculum. Some of it we'd purchase, some of it we build, some of it we borrow. But we feel we have talented teachers or could find the ones we need to really make this a success. We looked at staffing, enrollment regs, and again, I mentioned locations. I'm just talking tonight to get you as excited as I am about having this option for our kids. On March 3rd, we'll have a packet with explanation of what we think we could do to take to the community, start recruiting kids and looking at staff positions. And I think this could be an incredible thing for the community of West. So just wanted to tell you tonight about what we're working on so you could be asking me questions between now and March if you have them about how this could look and would look. But think of it in terms of it would be our 5th school. And again, 22 kids is what we would need to make it work. And I believe we'll have more than 22. We will have so many that want to come and be a part of it, we won't know what to do with them all. So sit back and enjoy this ride because it's going to be amazing. So get ready for the presentation on March 3rd.
David, something that since you and I talked about this, that I have become hardcore aware of is, I mean, and twice just in the couple of weeks since we've talked, is that credit recovery program, a credit recovery school, a credit recovery campus, the big push of that, and not just for our kids, but it's really amazing to me, the credit recovery campuses and or schools, whatever they're calling themselves, and the numbers of kids that are coming back to try and do that, which might be another branch of our remote kind of stuff that we really want to look at and what those numbers are. Because I know with our own kids, we do credit recovery and trying to help them make up what they're missing, but then you've got kids that are out there floating who've left and how we can really help. And we might be able to bring them in and add to our numbers and have a 6th kind of campus thing.
Agreed. That could definitely be a piece of it. See, those kind of ideas we'd love to hear, guys, because this could be something really special. And I can't stress enough, there is a need today for this. and we just wouldn't be reaching kids if we don't put this in place. Why wouldn't we? It's a moral obligation for me. All right, next topic. I wish I had better news. Jason Yannick will fall out of his chair probably. The geotech people showed up last week and their equipment broke, and we can't post our packet for the enclosed batting cages until we have the geotech and the survey. So they're coming tomorrow, ironically enough, and now the weather is what it is. But they said they would stay until they got it done because we had to go postal on them just to make sure we stay on our timeline here. So tomorrow should be the day, and then we can get it in the paper next week. Oscar's just waiting for the survey and the geotech. So again, the design is done, and as a reminder, on the share screen of where these things are going. And I'm going to mention while they're here, they're going to go ahead and do the geotech and survey on the land where the ag building will go back up just east of the trees on this part. And so they're coming, and what they're doing are these two red squares in order to get the geotech and survey for the packets. So again, this is the enclosed batting cages. This is where the ag piece is going, where my cursor is.
Okay, cool.
And we'll share in March, because George is helping us design it with Claycomb, the ag vision. Right now, we're just getting the geotech done. You've seen the pictures of the batting cage, and in case you've forgotten that, this again is what we've already had designed. Let me pull this up and let me share this out. Share screen. Here it is. Remember, this is the drawings and what we've designed. Here's what the building will look like, where it's going to sit. And down here on the bottom right, you can see the two batting and pitching lanes, and then the space just north of those cages where they'll do individual drills. And I know they wish they could have it right now because of the weather, but we're doing the best we can. It's not from lack of trying or desire to get it done. It's going to be awesome. All right, last topic. I went ahead and we put through the TASB Summer Leadership Institute registrations. They're claiming it's going to be in person. Of course, they're going to have a virtual piece too. I'm not saying we're going, but we went ahead and put it out there just to see who needed hours and wanted to do it. Excuse me. As it gets closer, we'll have more discussions about what it'll look like. Oh, my voice. I just wanted you to have the dates so you could put them on your calendar. And so as it gets closer, we'll see what this means for us and who's going to way to get some hours done. So just wanted you again to have the dates.
Very good.
And that's it. Awesome meeting, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, board members, and thank you, those of you who are out in the audience and stuff, for all the hard work you've done, for listening in and joining us. So, all right. Well, y'all all stay safe and try to avoid as much of the bad weather as you can. Thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, we need to make a motion, please.
I was fixing to get to that, Lee.
I'm sorry.
Floor is now open for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, raise your hand, and see you later. Thank you again.
I'm 44.
Good night. Y'all take care.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks.